I know that the war is wrong.
There was one helicopter that they had down there.
Yeah, it buzzed us a couple of times when we were waiting.
PTSD wasn't a term when we came home from Vietnam. Most of the guys were told it's shell shock, it's battle fatigue, it'll wear off, go home, you know, no problem. They were starting families, they were starting new jobs, a lot of them went back to school. The horrors of war were put to a back part of their mind. But when they have the time now, as they're sitting there watching TV and something comes on the TV or they're listening to music and a song comes up, triggers now are bringing that stuff out of the back of their minds and to the forefront. That's why a lot of the Vietnam vets today are having issues that they didn't have for the last 40 years because life has changed for them now.
Each day in Vietnam, young Americans put forth a determined effort to stem the unpredictable tide of tyranny.
I think we faced an extremely serious and intensified struggle with the communists.
You're very scared. The whole time I was over there, all I did was pray that I would live.
And when you raise your hand and you make that pledge to your country, you're assuming that they're not going to lead you down a path that's going to be horrible.
When the firing started and we started running to a sandbag bunker, he was shot and killed right in front of me.
After the years, things start fading and you wonder, did it really happen?
These guys that were in the bush and humping, you know, they came back with darker memories.
I didn't know where I was. Everything in Vietnam was in country. Anything outside of Vietnam was the world. We weren't in the world. We were in hell. It was easier to fight the war than it was to come home and live your life afterwards.
It's more than just a war. The aftermath is so bizarre.
So talking about over there, like the first time being shot at, I didn't know I was being shot at, and seeing guys getting blown apart and stuff like that. Yeah, that's not what I'd like to talk about. Well, you couldn't even tell which one was the enemy anyway, because it was all the same in jungle warfare. I mean, the people that would cut your hair during the day were shooting at you at night. When I first came back from Vietnam, I was laying in bed. My mother touched me when I was sleeping. She said I almost killed her. I just reacted. I don't remember it. She reminded me later on about it. I mean, coming back from the Vietnam War, they never turned us off. They wound us up like a clock and never unwound us. I came home and I guess I was a different person. Everybody else noticed it more than I did. My name is Casper Anthony Everhard Jr. Nicknamed Cappy. Everybody knows me as Cappy. I don't know if it had to do with a hat. Like I said, it was passed off from my dad to me and then on to my son. And I preferred being called Cappy. The way I survived the war is take care of the guy on the right, take care of the guy on your left. We were, I wouldn't say shunned, we were ignored. World War II guys wouldn't accept us. You weren't in a war. The only ones that really accepted you were your family. And nor did they talk to us about it. I was never called the baby killer directly to my face, nor was I ever spat on. But you knew that you wouldn't talk about the Vietnam War. You just wanted to blend in, let your hair grow. And unfortunately, the outcome of that was, through now I found out as PTSD, is I wound up taking up drinking for about 20 years. This is when we were in the rear. I had these blown up because I'm going to bring them up to my buddy. That's my buddy, John Davis. That's actually me on the side with my ass hanging out. This is when we were in the rear. We had to wash the tank so we can be nice and clean for combat. I don't know why I had to wash it, but we did. This is the water truck, and we have to wash all the motor lift. And this picture that's on there, I actually designed that. They asked me, I was sort of like pretty good with art. And that was the cover of the searchlight on the tank. And they wanted me to design a picture of a skull inside of a helmet and putting the words, "Don't tread on me," underneath. 50 years ago today, I was scared. Again, in other words, you got scared in the beginning and you get scared at the end. In between, you became hardened. I think I was more scared at the end, thinking that you weren't going to make it home. And I'll never forget the day I was leaving. I called her. She wasn't home. I wanted to say goodbye. Talked to my mother-in-law.
Who wasn't at that time?
And my mother-in-law didn't really care for me, nor I was a street guy, you know. I guess I can understand where they were coming from. She said, "Oh no," she went to the beach with some other guy. And off to Vietnam I went after that phone call. And later on, guess we wrote back and forth for about a month. Then she wrote me a letter, "We can't do it anymore." And so I guess you might consider that like a Dear John letter. That's what I considered it. It was devastating. But the guys took me under their wing that had went through this. And that's pretty much the way you survived it. I told you I looked a little different. I still have my hair. I have my old Italian nose. And I never told her this, but I don't think. I remember I was on guard duty and I sat on top of the tank hoping that the Viet Cong would shoot me. I wouldn't shoot myself, but I sat like a silhouette all night long. Here I am, somebody shoot me. Anyway, after a few months, these guys hooked me up with pen pals and we got to write to different girls. And it was nice to have somebody to write to. I couldn't write to her. I must have went through 15, 20 jobs before I finally found a company that would accept me for who I was and that I could retire from. And the only reason I took that job was for my family, so I could raise them. We were looking at the graduation picture after, I don't know, I guess it was 12 weeks of boot camp. I can't even remember how many weeks ago, it was so long ago. I probably couldn't remember half the people in there. Not even half, well, maybe one or two I might remember. To this day, I still only will talk to certain people about Vietnam. Because if you haven't been in the combat over there and seen what you've seen, you really don't understand it, nor can we explain it. There's a picture, looks like I'm high, huh? Well, I didn't receive my Purple Heart till 20 years after I got out of the Marine Corps. I didn't ask for it, didn't want it. Give it to the guys that lost their arms, their legs, their lives. They're the ones that earned it. I'm here. They put me back together. I'm happy. The end's got the best taste. It's easier to handle. And I chew on it. It's juicy. That's like if I sit on my porch now and I'll sit out there and smoke a cigar. I earned that right. I could fly my flag. I earned my right. You think about Vietnam every day. Every day. That doesn't ever go away. It could be anything. It could be me going up the parkway and seeing the swamp. And I look at that swamp and I see a rice paddy. Automatically, no matter where I go, I'll flash back to Vietnam. Hear a helicopter go by. It may not be a Huey as we use there, but helicopters bring you right back. It could be anything that'll bring you back to it. I'm lucky I married an Irish girl. I really am. I started going out with 4 girls. She wound up being one of the 4. True, it's a weird coincidence because, well, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be here today. I guess pretty much the way I'd like to be remembered is being a proud American. Honor the warriors. That's why you have what you have. Richie Frost.
We killed a sniper one time, and he was trying to swim away from us, but the M60 guy got him, and when we pulled him up, he was swimming away with half his face gone. There are times when I have bad days. Being an artist, I would rather make love instead of war. It's either laugh or cry. It's not an easy thing to see a person with their whole insides hanging out. My legal name is Herbert William Worthington, Jr. I was in the Army. I was drafted in 1969.
He just got a letter one day and our life changed the day that letter came, which
You hid from me too for
yeah,
a couple days.
I hid it for, I had it, not that I hid it, but I had it for 3 days before I told him that, because I knew what it was. First of all, I had to figure what was in there. I didn't open it, but I had to figure what was in there, and it said, you know, you have to report. Bingo, your life changes.
Now at this point in time, it would take about a week for a letter from me to get to her.
Well, the delay was really bad because we never knew whether you were alive or not. Once we got home, you have to remember that you didn't talk much.
I didn't allow balloons at the birthday party because naturally they break, and to me the sound was just like an AK. It would go through my whole body and I'd either be on the floor or, you know, like in a corner or something, trying to get away from it. And by 2002, I was already a type 2 diabetic. Type 2 diabetes became a presumptive for being exposed to Agent Orange. That was the beginning for me. Because of Agent Orange, I can honestly say that the war will not be over for our group. And that goes on to our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, as much as 7 generations. I've seen children with no legs at all that waddle along or push themselves along on the ground with just their body. I think I would like to be remembered as a fellow that tried to do his best, whether it was in the service, as an artist, as a husband, And as a father, I know that I've fallen short. And this is tough. Just a guy that I've tried to do my best. I've done some good in the world. That's it.
You're seeing 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, bad wounds, you know, squeezing your hand, asking if they're going to make it, are they going to get home to see, and I mean, you got to, yeah, don't worry about it, you're going to do fine, and you know, they're not. The first 10 or 15 years after Vietnam, I didn't want to know anything about Vietnam. You're always afraid. Anybody that tells you they were in combat, I don't care, Vietnam or any other theater war, that tells you they were never afraid, or either a psychopath or a liar or a psychopathic liar. You're always afraid. After I go to bed, I'll wake up during the night and I start thinking about things and playing over in my mind things that went on in Vietnam. Sometimes I'm up for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I can't go back to sleep. Literally, you know, I was in Vietnam last night. If you're in a firefight and you're in these moments of terror, it's terrible, it's chaotic. People are screaming, yelling, people are getting wounded, killed, and that's pretty bad. But probably just as worse, if not, is you're walking through the jungle, you're walking down a road, and nothing's happening, and you're looking to either side and saying, is somebody going to pop out of there and shoot me? Am I going to step on a tripwire and a booby trap's going to blow up and kill me? Sometimes those moments of boredom or silence or no action are worse than actually being in the action. My name is Bill McClung. I grew up in Hudson County, New Jersey. The worst nightmare is multiple casualties, because then what you have to do is you have to do a triage, and you have to decide, who am I going to treat first, second, and third. And whoever you pick, the second or third guy might not survive by the time you get to him. So it's a terrible decision. I got home June 3rd. I got married June 18th. Went to bed that night, woke up the next morning, and my wife's not in bed. And I walk through the apartment looking for her, and I find her sleeping on the couch. And I go over to the couch and I shake her and wake her up, and I say, what's going on? I mean, one night, one day, is it over? I mean, did I do something wrong? Did I not do something? Was I not good? I mean, what? What's going on? And she said, no, you woke up in the middle of the night, you were yelling, screaming, kicking, punching. She said, I tried to duck in between the punches and the kicks to wake you up. Said I couldn't, so I got the hell out of there before you killed me. I apologized profusely because I didn't remember it. I didn't remember it then, and I don't remember it now. And she tells me that that lasted for about 6 to 8 months. Not every night, maybe then, you know, gradually, you know, a couple of times a week, maybe once a week, then maybe a couple of times a week, then maybe, but that woman put up with hell. One of the kids asked me once, he said, did you ever save anybody's life? And if so, how many? And my answer is, you know, I'd like to think I did, and you really don't know because you don't get feedback. These badly wounded guys, you put them on a helicopter, medevac, and they go, and you never see them again. You usually never hear from them again. So I said, I'd like to think I did, but you know what, quite frankly, the ones that bother me and haunt me and I think about is the ones I wasn't. And you know intellectually that there was nothing you could do, but emotionally, you still blame yourself. I think about that today. And you know, so it's difficult. So to me, what do we learn? What should we learn? Rules of engagement. And if you're going to go in with everything you have, achieve your objectives, and get the hell out. If not, don't put our troops in harm's way if you're not going to support them. We didn't learn a damn thing.
In the 40 years since I've been back, I think I've probably not ever slept through the night. Every day above ground is a good day. From a psychological standpoint, I was pretty okay. I drink way too much. Been drinking for 40 years. I'm not stopping. I'm not a violent drunk. I don't drink during the day. I was not a good student in school. My name is Anthony Daltrui. I got out as a corporal in the Marine Corps. I was a badass. I thought I was a real badass until I got in the Marine Corps. This is the control tower in Chulai. These 4 or 5 little guys used to come up to the Jeep every time I went out there, give them candy, and I just tagged this one Our Gang Vietnam style. And that last shot there is a downed H-46 being airlifted out with a H-53. In the background on the mountain, you can see what looks to be like landslides. That was a B-52 bombing. I got back in October of '69. You know, all the rioting in '67 and '68 had already happened. Obviously, this is the Christmas show, 1968.
Now, man, I bring you great news from the land of liberty. It's still there. You may have to cross a picket line to see it, but it's there. But don't worry about those riots you hear about in the States. You'll be sent to survival school before they send you back there.
I got an early out. I was going to get out from El Toro, California. So I had to go through LAX. And LAX was one of those places where there was a lot of negative going on. So I heard about that, and I was concerned about how I might react. So I went out and bought a suit, and I bought this 3-piece suit. And then I realized that in order to get the 50% off your flight, you had to be in military uniform. So the day I got discharged, I got in my uniform, went to LAX, got catcalled, got spit at. I got on the plane, and I took my uniform, and I put it in the garbage. I put my suit on, and when I got back to Newark, my then future wife and My mom and dad were looking for a guy in a uniform. You know, I just came back from Vietnam. And they asked me, what are you doing in a suit? And I said, it's a long story, and that's behind me, and let's go on with our lives. I think if I dwelled on it, I probably would have wound up in jail. I'm not a pacifist in any way, shape, or form. And the Marine Corps taught me one thing: you do what you're told, when you're told. It's not a debate, it's what you have to do. I use that resolve the rest of my life to help me through, you know, to never quit. There's no such word as can't. It's you won't, you don't want to, whatever, but can't is a word that doesn't exist in my vocabulary. I never let Vietnam drive my life. I have great animosity for the time there. I believe that my son, who's going to be 46 in a couple of weeks, he's handicapped. I believe it's a derivative of my exposure to Agent Orange. I can't prove it. I have great disdain for being sold down the river, you know. But at the same time, I have enormous pride for having been in the Marine Corps. I finally started to acknowledge how really inspirational my time in the Marine Corps, and specifically in Vietnam, was to the rest of my life. I don't know if there's a right war. I don't know if war is the answer. That having been said, when you have people that are unwilling to negotiate, to discuss, it's always going to be there. If there was one thing that everybody should know about the Vietnam War, it was wrong. I see nothing good that came out of it. Whenever I was having a really bad day, and I've had a bunch, I would come here, and I would go to the wall, and I would go to the names of the guys that I played in a band with in high school, played football with, just kids I hung out with, and I would say, how dare I have the nerve to not appreciate this day, as miserable as it is, because every one of those guys never had that chance.